Hi, I'm Reen Wilcoxson. I'm an independent educator and I create in the hoop designs. Today I'm going to show you how to create this in the hoop quilted passport case. I've got all my pieces cut out that I need. I've got my fabric, I've got my batting, and I've got a piece of fold over elastic. The first step is to hoop lightweight cutaway stabilizer, to put down a piece of batting, to put down a piece of fabric right side up, and to stitch any design that you want. I chose to stitch this all over quilted design for the front of my cover. We're ready to go to the machine now and get started on the design. I have lightweight cutaway stabilizer hooped. I've placed a piece of fabric right side up, centered in the hoop, and I've stitched the first step. This step has basted the fabric in place and it's stitched 4 little placement lines. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put the hoop on the machine. And we're ready to place our first piece of fabric. This piece of fabric has been folded wrong sides together. It's going to be one of the pockets. So I'm going to place it with the fold even with these 2 top placement lines. And we're ready to stitch the next step. This step is stitching 3 dividing lines that's going to create 2 pockets. The passport case will hold a passport, it'll hold an ID, and a couple of credit cards when it's finished. I used a triple stitch for this step because I wanted it to be nice and strong so that when you are slipping your cards in and out, it won't rip or tear or anything. This step is almost done. You could tape the fabric down, but I prefer not to. Okay, I'm ready to place the second pocket. This is another folded piece of fabric that's been folded wrong sides together. I'm going to place it, I'm going to take the hoop off and move it closer towards me just so I can see my placement lines better. But I'm going to place the fold even with the second set of placement lines. And then I'm going to get the hoop back on the machine and get ready to stitch the next step. This step is going to stitch this piece of fabric down by creating 2 more sets of placement lines. This set of placement lines will be used to put our piece of fold over elastic down, which is what closes the case up. Make sure when you place the folds that both of the folds are pointing towards the center of the hoop. I'm using a piece of 5/8 inch fold over elastic. This is what's going to close the case. And I'm going to place it right side up, centered in between the placement lines. Again, I'm going to take the hoop off. I'm just going to move it towards myself so I can see the placement lines better. So I just placed it in between the placement lines. And this time I'm going to use a little bit of tape to hold it in place. Get the hoop back on the machine and get ready to stitch the next step. This step is actually going to stitch the fold over elastic in place so it won't shift on us. It's going to stitch one side, then the other. Then it will come towards the bottom of the hoop and stitch the pocket, the bottom of the pocket in place. Again, this is going to stitch a triple stitch. I use the triple stitch a lot in my designs for the final construction, and the step it's stitching now is part of the final construction of the case. All right, that step is finished. And I'm gonna take the hoop off again, pull it towards myself, just so I can get a better look at things and place my next piece. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull this tape off that I put on to hold the elastic in place. And this is the piece that I stitched first. It was my all-over quilting pattern. I've just trimmed away the stabilizer from around the edge, and now I'm gonna fold it in half. And on my pattern, you can see I have a definite center medallion, so I'm just gonna fold it in half, and I'm gonna fold it wrong sides together. And I'm going to use the placement marks on the hoop, the little notches on the side of the hoop, to line this piece up with, the fold with. And I'm also lining up the basting stitches here and here. So let me get that in place. I'm gonna unfold it. Now I could either pin at the top or the bottom. I could tape it in place. I'm just going to hold it as it stitches. And I'm gonna get this last step started. After this step stitches all the way around, it's gonna leave an opening at the bottom. Okay, the design is finished. I'm gonna take the hoop off the machine and it's ready to come out of the hoop. I'm gonna go back over to the table now. And here's one that I've taken out of the hoop and it's ready to be trimmed around. Here's the opening. And when I start to trim, I always start at the opening because we're gonna have to leave the opening a little bit longer so that we have our raw edges to turn in. So I just start cutting through everything. And then I'm gonna cut about a 1/4 inch all the way around from the stitching. Go all the way around. And then when I get to the opening, I'm just gonna leave it a little bit longer. And here's one that I've already completely trimmed around and it's ready to be turned. So I just reach inside, turn it to the right side. I go to a corner, turn it to the right side. I have some tools that I can use to help me turn, but here's one that I've already turned. I've turned it, pressed it, poked the corners out well. Here's the opening where I've turned my raw edges in, and all I have to do is hand sew it together, and it's complete. And you can find the link to the design on the website. You can also find out about some other travel accessories that I have that are made in the hoop. There's a little needle case and a cord wrap for your phone and charger.